Effectively, everyone in the industry, from editorial to DI to finishing, all supports Red natively and robustly using our Red Rocket card to do everything in real time. So the days that editors have heard about, well, the Red makes phenomenal images, but it takes a long time to kind of move the files around, that's so patently untrue these days that it's frightening. And if a producer hears that and someone has convinced them that that is still the way it goes, then they are not paying attention and have not been updated to the latest hardware and software, which I know still happens out there. But I'll be controversial and go out on a limb and I'll say, if you're a producer and you brought a drive with a whole bunch of Red or Epic footage on the drive and you brought it to your post house, and the post house says, that's great, I got 5 or 6 hours of footage here, we'll see you like tomorrow, we'll process a bunch of DPX files and then you come back, or we'll make some ProRes and overnight long render and then you come back. Be as nice as you can and put your hands back out and say, can I please have my drive back? I'm going to another post house. Because if you can't do every single step of Red to prep files, deliver files, grade files in real time or faster, you have not been paying attention. Thank you very much. And go to another post house because they can all do it. More specifically, what happens is, and this is actually a lot happening on set, right? So from an editor's perspective, there's a lot of controversy in where does post happen these days. And post happens all over the place, including right next to the camera, on the set, right? So in a typical workflow, and my buddy Nate here's been on a lot of these big movies shooting, you would have an Epic or a Red 1. Oh yeah, and there's our tattoo parlor. We have a working tattoo parlor at NAB. You would have a Red 1 or an Epic, and there would be a technician on set, typically with a cart with a Macintosh and a couple of monitors on it, nothing exotic, with a Red Rocket card in it, the accelerator card that we make. And as the footage comes off the drives, off the SSD modules or the CF cards, they're taking them, they're making a couple of copies for protection copies right on the set, and then they're also prepping ProRes files if it's a Final Cut edit job, or DNX files if it's an Avid edit job in real time. So an hour of footage gets made in about an hour, plus the minute or so to press the right buttons and set the look you want. And that's how it's done. So typically at the end of a shoot day, a producer will leave with his backup copies of the media, the RAW, and a copy of the ProRes or the DNX ready to drop into your system and start cutting. That can also happen in the post house or in your garage or anywhere you want in between. Sometimes it happens in a little van right next to the production because of some of the union categorizations. They actually can't be on the set doing this, so they can be near the set doing it, which is kind of an interesting sort of technology is moving faster than the unions can decipher where these people belong and what category do they fit in. So we're just in charge of making the technology work, and then they can figure all the politics out. But very commonly you see what I call near set workflow, where they have a small little van, or they're like set up near craft service or something, and they're doing the processing of the files and making the editorial files, and even showing looks to the director, even doing cuts on set. You see that happening a lot, where they'll do a Final Cut edit right on the set and show the director at lunchtime, here's the cut of what you shot before lunch, and all these things happen all the time, which is pretty cool. Then once you get ready to move into the after editing, effectively all the DI systems can touch native R3D files, which is our Red RAW files. So they don't have to convert them to DPX like you used to. You can still do that if you want, and Red Rocket will do that in real time, but we think it's better to work off our native files, and then you just do an XML or AFF link from the edit media that you've done. Many systems support a true native link with all the dissolves and effects and everything. And you just grade off your R3Ds in full, the 12-bit files and whatever you want, and then you export out to anything you want. For TV, it's typically SR tape, although that apparently is going to change now after the drama in Japan. So any kind of ProRes or DNX file, or you can make sequential files for a film out or anything you want. It's actually that simple. And they all support it. You name a DI company, as far as I know, every single one that's actively working in the business today runs Red Rocket cards and can do real-time Red. How's that?
Good.
Okay.
Do maybe a brief thing on the iPad on set?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so in terms of the technology, and of course our love for all things Apple, we've been very connected with Apple. Red has from the very beginning. We're in love with their hardware, just like everybody else is. We actually have a new control app for the camera that will run on an iPad, and you can actually control some of the parameters of the camera control and set looks and grades via an iPad. There's a whole system. There's a company called Teradek that builds a wireless HD feed connector from the Epic, and you can actually send wireless HD and look at that on the iPad as you're shooting your Red Code RAW. And that's all. There's many sets doing that now, working with that now. There's all kinds of things around the corner that are in that irk of nearline or real-time viewing and streaming of files while you're shooting your movie.